Sorry. We have the planning and zoning and the local planning and zoning, but I'd like us to welcome you to the meeting of September 25th.
June, turn your mic.
Oh, sorry, my mic is on the side like that. It's been one of those days. And don't worry, in 3 months will be Christmas. Can you please rise with me to say the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Vicki, can I please have a roll call
Yes, ma'am. Chairman June Perrin,
here?
Vice Chair David Leland,
Absent.
Ray Nazareth,
Here.
Philip Marquis,
Here.
Charles Plummer,
Here.
Ross Schillingford.
Oh, thank you very much, Vicki. Can I get a motion for the approval? We're going to do the village planning and zoning meeting. Can I get an approval for the meeting minutes of Monday, July 16th?
Motion to approve.
And a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed 5-0.
Thank you. And we are doing the planning and zoning meeting agenda first. All of these items are quasi-judicial proceedings. So if you are here on behalf of an applicant or yourself, your own property, or staff, I do need to swear everyone in. So if you could stand and raise your right hand for me, and I'll swear you in at this time. Great. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. And the first item on the meeting for tonight, item 1, is a public hearing to consent and make recommendations to the Village Council regarding various application 18-72, an application by Linda and Ariel Hermosa, and variance order VC 1804. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 26-57B1A for a shed to allow for a side yard setback of 5.6 feet in lieu of the 7.5-foot side setback as requested by code for a property located at 1034 Sonata Way.
Thank you. And I'll ask the commissioners if anyone has any ex parte disclosures that they need to make.
No.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, staff has a brief presentation. The process pursuant to section 2-75.24, authority, function, and duties, the Planning and Zoning Commission shall review and make recommendations to the Village Council on all variance applications. The criteria for granting a variance is set forth at section 2632F6B of the code, and it requires that special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved, that does not result from the actions of the applicant, that it will not confer on the applicant any special privilege, that a literal interpretation of the provisions of this division would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties, that the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, that it will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this division, and that it will not be injurious to the area involved or detrimental to the public welfare. Having said that, the property is located at 1034 Sonata Way. It is highlighted in light blue. It is a corner lot over in Counterpoint Estates. The applicant had installed a shed, one of those little, I believe it's like a Rubbermaid shed. It's 7x7 in the side property. I've been told by the applicant that it's been secured to a concrete pad and is also strapped in place, which would make it difficult to move. The applicant further asserts that the shed is needed due to the fact that the house has no garage in which to store tools and yard equipment. In particular, the applicant states that the layout of the lot and existing landscaping would require the shed to be placed in a more visible location on the corner lot, so it would be visible from the street. Location where the shed is currently located is the least visible spot on the property. The applicant further asserts that this is the minimum variance that will allow for the reasonable use of the property and prevent Village Code from denying the applicant an amenity commonly enjoyed by other property owners. You may have noticed that there is another shed on the property at the rear, which does not currently meet village setback requirements. However, the applicant was able to produce a permit from Palm Beach County, which shows that it was a permitted structure at the time that it was constructed. Village staff is not in support of the applicant's variance request because staff contends that the granting of the variance would confer on the applicant privileges denied to other residents in similar circumstances. Staff also contends that the actions of the applicant have resulted in the need for a variance, and therefore this application does not meet the criteria for a variance. It should be noted, however, that the Village Council has approved variances for similar structures in the past based upon perceived hardship that would be created by denying the variance. Village staff is recommending or requesting a recommendation of denial. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. The applicant, Ms. Hermosa, is here, and she can speak on her behalf for why she feels the variance is required.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Good afternoon. Would the applicant like to make a presentation? Would you like to say anything? If you would like to. Vicki?
He had mentioned the other shed. It's like a workbench where there's not really room for things like the generator or the power washer to keep the sidewalks clean. We had needed this to have a place to store the large things when we, as Kevin had said, when we chose where to put it, we chose one that is least visible by the road, so it would be least unattractive. And, you know, like he said, we don't have a garage, so we were hoping very much. We only wanted it so we could maintain our property in the way that the Village of Royal Palm Beach would like it to be maintained. That was our sole purpose.
Thank you. I can understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any comments from the public regarding this? Seeing none, are there any comments or questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Ross?
No comments or questions.
Commissioner Plummer?
So our contention is that the shed is not within code, and it's supposed to be what, a couple feet away from?
Supposed to be 7.5, and it's 5.6. The applicant has been working since she was cited by code enforcement diligently to complete this process. So she has been working with staff for probably 2 or 3 months now. She spent several $100s on the application as well as on the survey to facilitate this application.
Okay. And the only reason that you're denying is just because the setback is?
It doesn't strictly meet all of the variance criteria that are required. Again, as noted in the staff report, that Village Council has approved some of these things in the past when they don't meet all of the criteria as is normally required.
Okay. And on that diagram that you showed, could it have been moved to the back instead?
She provided pictures of the lot that has several large trees on it and an existing shed. And basically, what she's saying is that if she moves it anywhere else on the lot, it's going to be out where you see it from the adjacent Serenade Lane, because she is a corner lot.
Okay. And if I may ask you, you wouldn't want that that structure out there instead, rather than if we just said no? Yeah, please. Because I'm just trying to figure out the logic of, if it's not going to fly on the side, why not just move it in the back instead? And, you know.
Okay, there are several reasons. One, we had a patio that got blown away with Wilma, but all the cement and everything is still there, which sticks out quite a ways. And it would not really, it wouldn't match the zoning anyway. It would still be off if we moved it there. And it would also be very unattractive to, right now, although we have a privacy fence. With the slant, you can still see quite a bit of the yard, and it would be very unattractive. It's convenient being right by the door to get all the equipment out, and it's much more convenient, and it's much more aesthetically pleasant.
Okay, but I mean, if they're saying that they're recommending that it does not meet code, and if you have another option to put it back there because.
But it would still not meet code
It'd still
because
not
of
meet
our
code.
patio, and it would also mean elimination of trees and, you know,
Well, which one would you rather have? I mean,
Okay.
you're making it seem like you have to have this. It's either the trees or having the shed.
it would not meet either way. It's in a more pleasant spot where it is. And, you know, we're doing this totally to try to meet the standards of Royal Palm Beach, to have our house look good and, you know, have the equipment that we need for it to look good. We don't have a garage. We need a place. Some of these things are big, you know, the pressure washer and, you know, all that stuff, that's large, and
No,
we don't have a place to put it, and it would be very, well, plus there's also, as he mentioned when he was telling about it, there's a whole cement base, and it's been locked into the cement all the way around. It would be
Thank,
extremely difficult.
okay, good, thank you so much, okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Marquez, have any questions,
The only
comments?
question I have, are there any neighbors complaining about it? Or you have no problem with neighbors?
The village staff received from the applicant several letters from neighbors in support of the application.
Thank you. Commissioner Ray?
Yes, if you could step back up, ma'am. I want you to expand on the hardship portion of this because I feel for you. And I know that you want to comply with our regulations here in Royal Palm Beach. And I want you to reach out to us and say, you know, expand on the hardships. You know, you said you needed the storage and, you know, certain types of big equipment, and you got no solution here. So how can we help you?
It would help to be able to leave it where it is, to have the variance approved, because where he put it, there were several reasons for me. I'm a disabled person.
Right.
And I can't work.
I am too, I'm
and
disabled, right,
It's
exactly.
really difficult. My husband tries to do everything and work a couple jobs because I can't work.
Right.
And he's just struggling, and he had no idea that we needed a permit. I didn't know we needed it.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're trying to improve our property, you know, we were trying to take care of things. We didn't have any intention of violating any codes. We just were trying, and,
Yes, I can understand. You were just trying to be a law-abiding citizen and moving
Yes.
forward, and we all understand that, and appreciate all your comments and thoughts on this very much. But I'd like to ask if we have any further questions or comments. Can we get a motion on this, please?
I was just going to ask her if she's done
Yeah,
with
okay.
the,
well, did I answer your question?
yes, you did. Yes, you
Okay.
did. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate everything and understand that it's a little tough right now. Can I have a motion on this, please? I'd like you to know, as a comment from me, that we are just a technical review committee here. No matter what decision comes out tonight, you will be appearing in front of the village council meeting. If you go to that village council meeting, you take all those letters that Kevin said that you have provided him, and you tell him exactly what you've told us tonight regarding your hardships. So whatever decision is come across tonight, you know it's going to move forward to the next step, okay? So keep that in mind no matter what happens tonight, but just make sure you bring your letters. If you have a neighbor or anybody that can stand up and say that it's not causing an issue for them, okay? That's the main point. The next meeting is the big one, okay? When you go in front of the council. And they will make the final decision no matter what our vote is tonight, okay? Thank you. Now, can I have a motion, please, on this? On item number 1?
Motion to deny the application, per staff's recommendation based on, lack of compliance to the code. It does sound like, even though it's not desirable, that there is an option to move the shed. It's not, but there's a reason that there are codes in place, and we need to be selective on when we choose to approve variances.
Yeah.
So the motion is to deny the application per staff recommendation.
And can I have a second on that application, please? Don't forget, this will move forward no matter what the decision is tonight to the village council, who will make a final decision on this application. Is there a second on this motion, please?
Second.
Thank you very much. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
And let me make sure it's very clear. If you are approving the denial, say aye.
Are you approving the denial? Say aye. Aye?
Aye.
Okay, how many do not agree with the denial? Say nay.
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 So, the
So we
deni-
have a 3-2 to well, the motion failed. So
failed.
now we need another motion. So the other option is motion to approve. So if we could have that motion.
Can I have a motion to approve the application?
I second the motion.
Well, we need a motion first. Do you want to make the motion to approve?
Okay, I make the motion that we approve.
I second it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposing the motion? Nay.
The motion carried 3-2, so there is a recommendation of approval to the village council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, good.
And Ms. Hermosa, just for the record, you do know the village council meeting is going to be October 4th. It starts at 6:30 p.m., okay? It's going to be here. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Okay, and good luck, okay? Thank you. All the best.
Oh, man.
Item number 2, public hearing to consent and make recommendations to the village council regarding application 18-0069 SE, an application by My Lashes LLC, and adoption of resolution number 18-23, confirming council action. The applicant is seeking approval of a special exceptions for a state licensed massage therapy establishment on a 14.23 acre site situated on the northwest corner of Royal Palm Beach Boulevard and Okeechobee Boulevard within the Village Royal planned commercial development.
And I'll ask if anyone has any ex parte disclosures that they need to make on this application.
None.
Thank you.
Okay, a brief presentation. The process pursuant to section 2-75.24, parens 2, the Planning and Zoning Commission shall have the following powers and duties: to review and make recommendation to the village council on all special exceptions. Pursuant to section 2532F4, the special exception should be consistent with the standards of the village comprehensive plan, should comply with development regulations of the village code, it should not have adverse environmental impacts, it should not have adverse vehicular or pedestrian traffic impacts, it should not have an adverse impact upon public facilities, it should not have adverse impacts on adjacent properties, and it should be compatible with the character and living conditions of the existing neighborhood. It should not have an adverse impact on property values in adjacent areas, and it should not be a deterrent to the improvement or development of adjacent property. And it should not seriously reduce the quality of or quantity of light and air available to adjacent properties. So having said that, the site is highlighted in blue. It is on the northwest corner of Royal Palm Beach Boulevard and Okeechobee Boulevard, directly diagonally across the street from where we are tonight. The bay that will be occupied is on the north side. It's highlighted in blue, and it is approximately 1,300 square feet in area. The applicant is seeking special exception use approval for a state licensed massage therapy establishment. And it's going to occupy 1,300 square feet at 1163 Royal Palm Beach Boulevard. The property is located within a general commercial zoning district, and the applicant has already obtained a state license for the massage establishment and provided it within the application. Therefore, village staff is requesting a recommendation for approval of application 1869 as submitted. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Is the applicant present, and would you like to make any comments?
He doesn't wish to make any
Okay.
comments.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Any comments from the public? Seeing no comments from the public, I'd like to ask, do any of the commissioners have any questions or comments? Commissioner Ray?
Kevin, basically, all this is in line, right? The staff approves,
Correct.
and
It's
they met
just,
all the requirements.
it's mainly a special exception to make sure that we don't get the kind of massage establishments that tend to bring crime and blight to the area.
That was my, where I'm heading, because we're always leery about what's coming into our village.
Correct.
And, but if you have said that they meet all the requirements, then I'm good.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Commissioner Phil?
Is this an existing business already?
No, it's a new business, and there are several conditions which are standard for these types of operations that staff is recommending. They were in the staff report, that only state licensed massage therapists may provide massage services on the site, and only in conjunction with the My Lashes LLC use at this location. The special exception use approval will become null and void should the operator change or the use cease at this location. The establishment shall take its last customer no later than 8 p.m. and should be closed to the public no later than 9 p.m. And the windows shall not be tinted or blacked out. Visibility shall be maintained into the bay utilized for massage therapy. So those are standard conditions that if you recommend approval, you're recommending with those conditions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Commissioner Charles?
No comment.
Commissioner Ross?
No comments.
No comment. And as usual, the village has done a fine job on this and going through all the requirements to open up a business like this, and I thank them for critiquing it as well as you do. Thank you. And I'd like to have a motion, please, on this.
Motion to approve application 18-0069.
Thank you, and can I have a motion on that?
Seconded.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to the motion, say nay. Jennifer, motion passed 5-0. Thank you. Thank you very much. And the best of luck. Thank you. Okay? All right.
And you're going to the council meeting as well on October 4th. Okay.
See you there. Thank you. Okay, application number 3. The applicant is seeking architectural approval for a new wall sign for an existing automobile repair business located at 700 Royal Commerce Boulevard by agent Drew Discount of Farm Boy Customs.
And I'll ask if anyone has any ex parte disclosures on this application.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, staff has a brief presentation. The history, the site plan was originally approved on April 7th, 2005 through the approval of Resolution 0522 and Variance Order 0504. These approvals lapsed after 1 year on April 7th, 2006. The site plan and variance were approved again through the adoption of Resolution 0644 on December 7th, 2006. A site plan modification to add a 2,500 square foot mezzanine to Building 2 was approved on September 4th, 2008 through the adoption of Resolution 0836. And previously this year, special exception for auto repair for the Farm Boy Custom was approved in the former site of the general rental. Pursuant to the process, pursuant to Section 2-75.27, Architectural Design and Features, The commission shall provide for architectural and aesthetics review with final approval authority when such structures are being renovated and no other approvals would be required by village council. Signage is the subject of the application, and subject to the requirements of Chapter 20, the following elements of signage will be considered. It should be compatible with the adjacent structures. There should be harmony in textures, lines, and masses. It should be of height and scale to maintain spatial relationships with adjacent structures or the right-of-way. And lighting shall enhance the signage, but excessive brightness and brilliant colors should be avoided. The site is located at 700 Royal Commerce Road. The site is highlighted in blue on the monitor, just north of Southern Boulevard and south of Seminole Palms Drive, and just to the west of Southern Palm Crossing. The building in question is the one on the right-hand side, and the proposed sign is going to read Farm Boy Custom Co., and it's going to be formed from plastic stud-mounted letters. Village staff is recommending approval. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. The applicant is here as well.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Is the applicant here? Would you like to make any comments, please? Anything? Nothing at all? Okay, thank you very much. Any comments from the public? Seeing no comments from the public, I'd like to pass on to the commissioners. Commissioner Charles, any
No.
questions? Commissioner Ross, any questions or comments? No questions or comments. Thank you. Commissioner Rake, any comments or questions?
No, I don't.
Commissioner Phil?
No.
Comments or questions? Thank you very much. Can I have a motion on this, please?
Motion to approve application number 18-0074.
Thank you. A second on that motion,
I
please?
second it.
That's you. Okay, thank you very much. All those in favor of the motion,
Aye.
please say aye. Aye. All those opposed to the motion, say nay. Okay, motion passed 5-0.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All the best. Take care. Item number 4, the applicant is seeking architectural approval to change the approved landscaping plan for the townhouse section of the development to allow the removal of one shade tree and replace it with 3 palm trees located on Lamston Lane and north of Seminole Palms Park by owner Elliot Bates of Seminole Lakes Homeowners Association.
I'll ask if anyone has any ex parte disclosures that they need to make.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, the process pursuant to section 2-75.27B, landscape plans, all landscape plans for single-family developments of 3 or more units, multifamily developments, and commercial, industrial, mixed-use, public ownership, and private recreation developments that pursuant to the village code require review and approval by the village council shall, prior to consideration by the village council, be reviewed by the commission. The commission shall use the review criteria as set forth in section 2-75.28 when reviewing and considering the landscape plan. The commission shall make recommendations to the village council regarding landscape plans presented to the commission. Commission's recommendations regarding landscape plans shall be advisory only. The final decision-making authority should be the village council. Landscape plans for individual duplex and individual single-family structures are exempt from review by the commission. So landscape and site treatment, where existing topographic patterns contribute to beauty and utility of a development, they shall be preserved and developed. 2 grades of walks, parking spaces, terraces, and other paved areas shall provide an inviting and stable appearance. Landscape treatment shall be provided to enhance architectural features, strengthen vistas, and provide shade. In locations where plants will be susceptible to injury by pedestrian or motor traffic, they shall be protected by appropriate curbs, tree guards, and other devices where possible. Where building sites limit planting, the placement of trees or shrubs in parkways or paved areas is encouraged. Screening of service yards and other places which tend to be unsightly should be accomplished by the use of walls, fencing, planting, or combinations of these. Screening should be effective in winter and summer. In areas where general planting will not prosper, other materials such as fences, walls, and paving of wood, brick, stone, rocks, and gravel should be used. And exterior lighting, when used, should enhance the building design and the adjoining landscape. Lighting standards and fixtures shall be of a design and size compatible with the building and adjacent areas. Lighting should be shielded and restrained in design. Excessive brightness, flashing lights, and brilliant colors should be avoided. So, having said that, Seminole Estates and Townhomes is located off of Lamsteen Lane. It's north of Seminole Palms Park. and west of the FP&L power lines. The townhouse portion is highlighted in blue on the monitor. And the landscape plan, there was a typical landscape plan which basically showed an alternating pattern of 3 palm trees in the front yard, then a shade tree, then 3 palms, then a shade, and so forth throughout the townhouse area. The applicant is seeking approval to change the landscape plan for the townhomes to allow the townhome residents to remove their shade tree and replace it with 3 palms. The applicant is seeking to allow the residents, if they choose to replace it with palms, to give them a choice between Christmas, Alexander, and or foxtail palms. The applicant has indicated that the existing shade trees are very near the utilities and also to the driveways, and they're tearing up the driveways, and they're concerned that they will affect the utilities at some point as they get larger. Village staff has reviewed the application and we're recommending approval. If you have any
Okay.
questions, we're happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Is the applicant here? Would you like to make a presentation? Sure. If you'd like to step up to the mic, do you want to say anything? No? Okay, good. Thank you very much. Okay. Any comments from the commissioners? Commissioner Charles?
None.
Commissioner Ross?
Quick question, so the proposed palms are going to, are they more or less consistent with our plans for tree replacement in terms of size and, you know?
Yes, they're going to be required to meet the minimum code, which is 14 feet high at planting.
Okay, great, that's all I have.
Good, thank you very much. Commissioner Phil?
No.
Commissioner Ray?
I have a comment. I just want to applaud you for safety and understand that there's danger of the shade tree to the utilities. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention and applaud you for that.
Thank you very much, Mr. White. Any further questions or comments? If none, can I please have a motion?
Motion to approve application 18-0064.
Thank you. Can I have a second on that,
I'll
please?
second it.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to the motion, say nay. Motion passed 5-0. Thank you. Application number 5. The applicant is seeking wall sign approval for a proposed retail smoke shop within the Fox property, DRI, located at 10080 Okeechobee Boulevard by Agent Andrew Robinson of Anai Signs Holdings.
I'll ask if anyone has any ex parte disclosures that they need to make.
None.
Done.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, staff has a brief presentation. The process is laid out in section 2-75.27, architectural design and features. Actually, we just had one of these for the Farm Boy credit, so I trust you're all paying attention and remember the criteria to be applied. Having said that, the location of the building is 10080 Okeechobee Boulevard. It's on the southwest corner of Okeechobee Boulevard and State Road 7, next to the PNC Bank, which is on the corner. You've reviewed several signs for this plaza recently. The last one was, I believe, a nail spa, and they had red channel letters as well. That is what the current application is for. It's for a vape and smoke shop, and village staff has reviewed it. The signs meet the code requirements for size. Other signs have already been approved in this strip center that were red, so village staff is recommending approval of the application as submitted.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Commissioner Phil, any questions or comments?
Nope.
Oh, sorry, wait a second. I'm sorry. Is the applicant here? Would you
You're
like to, would you like to make any comments or anything? Sorry about that. Okay. Any comments from the public? Seeing no comments from the public, I'll move to the commissioners. Commissioner Phil?
Nothing.
Commissioner Ray?
Done.
Thank you. Commissioner Charles?
None.
Commissioner Ross?
No comments.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to pass this, please?
Motion to approve application number 18-0067.
Can I have a second on that?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to motion, say nay. Okay, motion passed 5-0. Thank you very much. All the best of luck. Okay. Application number 6, public hearing to consent and make recommendations to the village council regarding application number 18-0056 AAR, an application by Lennar Homes LLC. The applicant is seeking architectural approval for 13 additional housing models for the Crestwood North Residential Planning Unit development, located at the northwest quadrant of Crestwood Boulevard and the M1 Canal by agent Jennifer Val of One Men Group, Inc.
And does anyone have any ex parte disclosures that they need to make?
None.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the history, a brief history. The subject property is located at the northwest quadrant of Crestwood Boulevard and the M1 Canal. The subject site was assigned a single-family residential land use designation on January 6, 2014. Through the adoption of Ordinance 893 by Village Council, the Village Council approved a site plan for 385-unit single-family planned unit development through adoption of Resolution 1534 on November 19th, 2015. The on-site recreation site plan was approved through the adoption of Resolution 1625 and Variance Order Number 1610 by Village Council on March 16th, 2017. The process, Section 2-75.27, Architectural Design and Features. The Commission shall provide for architectural and aesthetics review with final approval authority when no other structures are being renovated and no other approvals would be required by Village Council. The architectural design and features are laid out in Section 2-75.27. The Commission shall use the review criteria as set forth herein when reviewing and considering architectural designs and features. And the Commission shall make recommendations to the Village Council regarding architectural designs and features other than color presented to the Commission. The Commission's recommendations regarding architectural designs and features other than color shall be advisory only, except as provided in subparagraph A1 above. So the review criteria is found at Section 2-75.28D. Architectural style is not restricted. Evaluation of a project shall be based on the quality of its design in relationship to surroundings. Structure shall be of proportionate size to be in harmony with permanent neighboring development. Components such as windows, doors, eaves, and parapets shall have balanced proportions in relation to one another. Colors shall be harmonious. Bright or brilliant colors are encouraged to be used only for accent. Design attention shall be given to mechanical equipment or other utility hardware on roofs, buildings, and at grades so as to screen them from view. Exterior lighting shall be part of the architectural concept. Fixtures, standards, and all exposed accessories should be harmonious with building design. And monotony of design in single or multiple building projects shall be avoided. Variety of detail, form, and siding shall be used to provide visual interest. In multiple building projects, variable siding of individual buildings may be used and is encouraged to prevent monotonous appearance. So the site is located again at the northwest quadrant of Crestwood Boulevard and the M1 Canal. You have seen several iterations of model homes. There are up to 22 existing model homes. They are proposing 13 new models. Actually, there's only really 9 new housing models and 4 of the previously approved models which have new transitional architecture elevation options which are being offered. So that will bring the proposed number of choices to 31 models. And I'm going to briefly go through the colored elevation drawings for each of the models that they're proposing. The Pietra, this is the transitional elevation. Gardenia, also the transitional elevation. Sienna has also the transitional. The Venice. This is the Venice Spanish architecture. I threw one of those in there so you could see what one of the other elevation choices look like. The Jasmine in the transitional. Sunflower. Chelsea. Aragon. Luminoso. Pittoresco. and Paraiso, and the Somerset, I believe. The last one is the Majorca, I believe. Yes. Village staff is recommending approval of the new models and elevations. The applicant is here as well if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Applicant, would you like to make any comments? Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, Jennifer Vale with WGI. Because staff did a thorough presentation, I'm not going to mimic and duplicate. However, I do have a sample of the color book here, which I can provide for the commission, and also have additional samples of the stone and roof tiles in the cart if the commission would like to see those as well. We are proposing the additional transitional style architectural to go along with the Spanish style that was previously approved. And as staff had indicated, we have 13 new models, but only 9 of those are technically new floor plans. 4 of them were previously approved. We're just providing those with the the additional transitional style. If you have any other questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Any comments from the, Ray, do you have any
Yes, I have a
comments?
question,
Can we ask
Jennifer.
if there's any comments from public first?
Yeah,
Any-
the public, yeah.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none, I close this section. Ray, would you like to?
Yes, Jennifer, I'm not clear. It says 15 models additional, and there's 13 that Kevin said, so I'm not really clear on that point.
I think that the agenda has a typo. It is 13.
It is 13?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I can
Because-
answer that for how that happened. Their original application was for 15 new models, and they whittled it down to 13.
Oh, excellent. So less is better, right?
Yes.
And I got one last question. They've met all the requirements, and staff is recommending approval?
Yes, they worked with staff for quite a while in TSR before
Okay.
getting here.
That's all I need.
Thank you.
I have nothing.
No comments? Thank you. Commissioner Charles?
None here.
Thank you. Commissioner Ross?
No comments?
Okay, the only comment I would really like to say is I like the tones. The tones are earth colors and blend in very with nature and things like that. Nothing's gonna pop out unexpectedly at anybody. I'd also like to say, why was it needed to add additional models? Was it for what particular reason?
It was an offering of different levels of home pricing and amenities, if I'm saying that correctly. And also, a lot of the ones previously were all within around the same square footage range. So this is offering some smaller models, some larger, just to give a variety to entice, as many homeowners as possible, and a wide range, including millennials and empty nesters. So
Good. Thank you for clarifying that
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you. Okay, seeing that there are any additional comments or questions, can I have a motion, please, for this?
Motion to approve application number 180056.
Thank you. Can I have a second on this
I'll
motion?
second it.
Thank you very much. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed to the motion say nay. Nay. No, sorry, not nay. Sorry. Just to say nay. All those opposed to the motion say nay.
Okay, so it was approved 5-0.
It was
Thank you.
approved 5 to
Okay.
0. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you. Application 7, public hearing to consider and make recommendations to the village council regarding application 18-44, an application by Keith and Associates, Inc., and adoption of resolution 18-14, confirming council action. The applicant is seeking site plan modifications, special exception use, and architectural approval for a 3.217 square foot automotive service station situated on 0.92 acres of land located on the northeast corner of Okeechobee Boulevard and Royal Palm Beach Boulevard by agent Shane Larosco of Keith and Associates. Thank you. Hope I pronounced that name properly.
Does anyone have any ex parte disclosures that they need to make?
None.
No,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, a brief history of the village. Oh, that's not the right history, so I'll skip that. The process is laid out at section 26-32F5. Site plan review applications required for all development applications for 3 or more single-family units, multifamily developments, commercial and industrial structures. There are some development standards in our village code which the project must meet. The one is the parcel size. The site is 0.92 acres or 39,967 square feet in size, and although slightly less than the minimum requirement of 40,000 square feet for general commercial, it was approved at this size on the original site plan. In addition, the site is part of a planned commercial development, which allows for the internal lot sizes to be varied. The parcel width, the property has 210.5 feet of frontage on Royal Palm Beach Boulevard and exceeds the minimum parcel width of 150 feet of frontage. The proposed building conforms to the setback standards for the general commercial zoning district. Pervious area, the proposed site provides 36% of the site as pervious area, which exceeds the minimum 25% required by village code. Parking requirements, the applicant shows a parking requirement per village code of 14 required spaces. 14 spaces have been provided. Landscape areas, the proposed landscape plan meets all of the minimum standards of Chapter 15 landscaping and maximum building height. The applicant is proposing construction of a 1-story building with a maximum height to the roof peak of 20 feet, which is less than the 32-foot maximum height for the zoning district. So the applicant is seeking approval for site plan, special exception use, and architectural approval in order to develop a 3,217 square foot automotive service station with 12 gas dispensers on the northeast corner of Okeechobee Boulevard and Royal Palm Beach Boulevard. An automotive service station is a special exception use within the general commercial zoning district. The site consists of a 0.092 acre parcel that is currently the site of a mobile gas station. It is the applicant's intent to demolish all existing buildings on the site and construct a new retail building and gas canopy and pumps. The applicant is also seeking architectural, landscape plan, and sign approval for the project. The applicant has supplied building elevation drawings, a sign package, along with color and material samples for the commission's review. And overall, the proposed site plan is in conformance with the village's requirements for the general commercial zoning district, for special exception use approvals, and the design standards for an automotive service station of the village code. We've already covered the special exception criteria in a previous application, so I'll skip through that. So basically the duties of the board are to review the architectural design and features, the landscape plans, and the color and materials. We already covered architectural design and features also earlier tonight. The site is highlighted in blue. It is on the northeast corner of Okeechobee Boulevard and Royal Palm Beach Boulevard in the Crossroads Shopping Center in the general commercial zoning district. The site plan, this access to the site is going to be from Royal Palm Beach Boulevard through a right-hand turning maneuver. They are going to have a channelized one-way in from the entryway to the shopping center on the north side. There will be 2 other ingress-egress points on the east side of the property. The fuel canopies will be in the middle. A brand new convenience store that's 3,217 square feet will be located along the south property line. The applicant is upgrading and replacing some of the existing landscaping due to areas of construction. They are going to restore the perimeter buffer along Royal Palm Beach Boulevard. They're going to be adding trees to come into compliance with the 1 tree for every 20 lineal feet, and they will be replacing the shrubs that are missing to make a continuous hedge as required by village code. The berms out there are already existing. In addition, it should be noted that after the 2004-2005 hurricane season, the village council passed a requirement that any new gas station which is constructed in the village should have an emergency generator which is capable of running the gas station so that people can fuel up after the storm. So that has been provided on the site and is going to be screened from view. It is over in the, let me go to that previous slide. It would be over in the southeast corner of the site, over in this area here. So the architectural features are presented on this slide. It's pretty standard 7-Eleven architecture. It closely matches the one that was approved several years back down on Southern Boulevard, which is also a relatively new 7-Eleven. The pump islands will comply with all the signage requirements for those pump islands. I believe they're going to probably come in with the signage for those at a later date. But the monument sign and the wall sign, they had submitted in the packet, and village staff is recommending approval of the application as submitted. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. The applicant's agents are here as well. So,
Thank you very much, Kevin. Would the applicant like to make any presentation or comments?
Good evening. For the record, I'm Josh Long, planner with Gunster Law Firm for 7-Eleven. We also have representatives from 7-Eleven and also Keith and Associates here as well. I think staff did a great job in the presentation. I do have a presentation as well. If you'd like to see it, it goes into a little more detail on the site plans and some of the, when we get into that? Sure. I have to go over there, right? Okay.
Okay, yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, first off, this is the application for the 7-Eleven Crosswood Shopping Center. And Keith did go through the application requirements. We want to get into why we're here tonight. And 7-Eleven as a corporation across the United States is going through a remodel, an upgrade. The convenience store model has changed over the last decade. The older 7-Eleven stores that just were small and only provided a couple very bare minimum products, they're now being upgraded to provide more fresh foods, salads and fruits and gourmet coffees, because that's the consumer model. That is what consumers are now requiring from the convenience stores. So 7-Eleven's on a campaign. Personally, Gunster's represented 7-Eleven on 50 different applications across the Southeast United States. So you'll see these new stores come in, and in this particular instance, you've got a store that's been there for 30 years, and they're coming in to completely knock it down, bring in a brand new model that upgrades architecture and landscaping, all the other features. And 7-Eleven's a big community player. They make sure that their franchisees get involved with the community, support athletic leagues and other things like that. So the international corporate model with over 80,000 stores is very involved in the community and other outreach programs like that. So real quickly, this is the site, as Kevin showed you earlier. We're outlined in green. This is a close-up of the 0.92 acre parcel. Just going to highlight a couple of things for you to walk you through the site. So highlighted there in pink, that is the convenience store. It's an older style model where half the convenience store is under the canopy. It's about 1,500 square feet. It has been operating since 1988. That's 30 years. It operates 24 hours a day. There's 6 pumps under the canopy. And a key indicator, that's the canopy there in blue. A key thing to identify is that the only actual parking for this structure besides under the canopy at the pump is located outside of the front of the store. And what that leads to is people parking in the drive aisle, because people want to park in front of a store. If you're not getting gas, you go there for a convenience item, you want to park in front of the store, and that is what people have been doing. They have been parking in the drive aisle, so this application is going to eliminate that, and you'll see where we have the parking right in front of the store. That's a key indicator. I skipped earlier, but there was a car wash also associated. The car wash is going to be completely removed, and there will be no car wash there any further. So I think this is an important slide to show. This is the convenience store right now. As you can see, there's no architecture. It's pure glass. There's no foundation planting. This is the rear. It's just a straight wall. The only architectural element is the PVC pipe that's used to measure the depth of the gas. So I don't think that would fall under architectural review nowadays. And here we have the north and south. So it's a complete box all the way around. There's no landscaping. There's no architectural variation whatsoever with this. The only part that does have a little architecture is a little bit of the roof on the car wash. Other than that, it also is just a plain stucco box. So here's the proposed site plan. This is a color elevation of the plan. Just wanted to kind of walk you through some of the key elements where they're located. So the first is the landscape buffer. We're keeping the landscape buffer. We're actually going to be enhancing it, so the landscape along the street's going to be greatly enhanced. A big part of this is also the foundation planting. So we're going to have landscaping in front of the building, which greatly enhances the architectural aesthetics of the building. The fuel canopy is located in the middle of the site, and this is good because it improves the site circulation. You have full circulation all the way around the canopy on all sides. We are also adding a direct pedestrian walkway to the adjacent sidewalk. So pedestrians walking by now can walk from sidewalk directly to the front of the convenience store. And I wanted to get to this. This is the front parking. So parking is now located directly adjacent to the front facade of the building. So now you won't have people parking in the drive aisle or parking scattered or, staying at the pump longer than they needed to be so somebody else could fuel, because now you can move your car and actually park in front of the building. This is a traditional design. This is the proper design for convenience stores, getting away from the old 30-year-old model. And most importantly, that is the generator, as you see pop in there. So you'll now be having a generator. So in case of emergency, this store will be open, operating 24 hours for those residents in this area. So here's the proposed architecture. As you see, we have variation. We have parapets. There's different, structural elements that, break up the massing of the walls. It's a calm tan facade, a drastic difference from this. As you can see, the before and after is a dramatic improvement. Even the rear, the architecture wraps the entire building. The rear continues the same architectural patterns compared to the rear of the previous building. And it continues with the side as well, compared to the side previously. The architecture also extends to the garbage surrounding the enclosure and the gates, as well as the canopy, the actual structure for the support poles for the canopy. All the architecture matches all the accessory structures. So with that, we do agree with all the recommended conditions of approval, and we ask for your support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. Commissioner Ross, sorry. Are there any comments from the public? Seeing no comments from the public, I'd like to know if Commissioner Ross, do you have any comments or suggestions or questions?
Yeah, a couple of questions. So I noticed that the building, the south elevation of the building is very close to the property line. Is there like a setback requirement of any sort? No?
No, there's no setback from the adjacent property. It's considered a side setback because the road is considered the front, so there's 0-foot side setbacks in commercial.
Okay. The other question is, it definitely vastly improved. That area is kind of it is the center of our village. I don't know if there's any opportunity to the south elevation, the east and west elevation, even though definitely a big improvement over what's there now. Is there any opportunity to enhance the architectural features? For example, sometimes they have full windows or full architectural features that make it a little bit more interesting. Right now, it's really just, other than some of the architectural edges and borders of the roof line and so on, it is very plain. And it's very visible. The east side would be quite visible. East and south would be quite visible from Royal Palm Beach Boulevard. I know that area very well.
In other stores similar to this, we have decorative medallions, which have a kind of, they mimic, these walls can't have windows because of the floor layout, but we have done decorative medallions, which are in kind of a square with like a kind of a crest or coat of arms type of structure. And we could add some of those, which would kind of take the place of windows and even break up the wall a little bit more. That's something that we've done in other stores similar to this. Would that be acceptable? Yes.
Yeah, just a suggestion.
Yeah, sure.
Enhance that side of the building. Those
Yeah, we've done things like those before, and it seems to be a good solution for these blank walls to decorate them a little more. Sure.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
No other comments.
And if you want to have that as a condition of approval to send up to council, just include it in the motion. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good, thank you. Commissioner Charles?
No questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Phil?
Nothing?
Commissioner Ray?
Yes, Josh, I have a couple of questions for you. I get the concept, and I really love the concept. And I understand that you're upgrading, you're going to serve fresh foods and, the retail section. But what I don't get is you have 7-Eleven on Southern. Can you tell me the difference? Because it's so close. I mean, what exactly is the difference here between that 7-Eleven and this one?
Well, the 7-Eleven, they do market studies, and they will serve a small area, usually within about a half to a 3/4 of a mile radius.
Mm-hmm.
And there's enough population growth in this particular area that the core markets and customers will be in this area, whereas the other there's actually several 7-Elevens if you went out 3 or 4 miles.
Exactly.
There are
Right.
several. And so we're a neighborhood market. And one of the things that we do, 7-Eleven does, is they will cater towards their particular market. Because sometimes you'll have certain groups that, like a certain product to be carried, and we can carry that in that store because we know that opposed from your store 2 miles away, that maybe they preference other things. So it allows the 7-Eleven to kind of cater to their direct neighbors within that, half mile to 3/4 mile radius. And there's enough population in this area, enough traffic on the roads, enough customers at these shopping centers to fully support another 7-Eleven, even though there's one just a couple of miles away.
And last but not least, is that going to impact the other 7-Eleven on Southern? Because this to me is like, it's exactly what the doctor ordered for this area.
Yes.
And Crossroads, and you're really going to be like an anchor. You're going to beautify the shopping center, and you're going to serve our community well, and you also have support for our community. So you said all the right things, but I just was concerned with, the old and the new.
Actually, it will complement and probably increase the sales at both stores. As we put in new stores, it helps our market and our model, and people will start choosing 7-Eleven over other stores because they understand the high quality that they can expect from those. So we're excited to upgrade the store, and we think it'll help the other stores in our area as well.
Nice. Okay.
Thank
That's
you.
all I have.
Thank you very much. Couple of quick questions. When do you expect the work to start on this, ripping down the buildings and all that other kind of good
That
stuff?
is a question for Charlie.
Just a rough idea.
2019, that store should open.
2019. You're going to start working on it, or it should be completed?
I hope it'll be complete.
Would you like to step up to
One
the?
more hearing and then right to building permit, so.
Yeah, and if you could just, and Josh,
Yeah.
maybe you
Yeah,
can
I'll-
just identify him.
Sure, for the record, that was Charlie Carpenter with Creighton Development. He said that the store should be open at the end of 2019.
End of 2019? Okay, thank you. Color scheme, please? Good color schemes. We like to stay natural, urban kind of colors, What color schemes will you have?
Well, they're all earth tone,
Earth tones.
very light tan. The stucco, as you can see here, they're just variations of, dark tan, light tan, a very Florida, type of color.
Because we like stuff to blend in as natural and as
Yes,
possible.
and
Yes.
staff made sure that we carried that throughout the canopies and the dumpster enclosures. So we worked with staff on this.
Dumpster closure will be enclosed, right?
Oh, yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it pretty.
Okay,
A
good,
pretty
thank you.
dumpster.
And I also did like the idea of the medallions, kind of, give it a little pop to it, because we do like to keep the village top shape and have it looking beautiful at all times, okay?
Absolutely.
But thank you, and good for upgrading the food also in there, because that's a very important part of life nowadays, okay?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Look forward to shopping there.
Thank
Thank you. Can Can I have a motion on this
Yeah, I'll
item,
make a
please?
motion to approve application 180044 with conditions for additional architectural accents on the east, west, and south elevations.
Thank you. Can I have a second on that?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passed 5-0. Thank you very much. That then closes our planning and zoning meeting for tonight. Thank you, gentlemen. All the best. We'll be there to shop. Thank you. Do we need to take attendance again? We're gonna move on to the local planning agenda meeting. Do we need to take attendance again?
You can just ask that the record reflect the same attendance as the planning and zoning meeting.
Record reflect the same attendance, please. Thank you, Vicki.
Yes,
Thank
it
you.
does, Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. And we're gonna do item number 2?
If we could, yes, if we could go ahead and do the minutes first, and
Oh,
then,
yes, the minutes.
thank you.
And then, do we have any comments on the minutes from the previous meeting, which was August 14th, right?
None.
Any comments? Can I have a motion on that, please?
Motion to accept.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Oh, we had a dual second.
I got Commissioner Nazareth, he was a little bit ahead.
It was faster.
My life story. What can I say?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed 5-0. Thank you very much. Okay, we are gonna move item number 2 to 1, and item 1 will be 2.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now I have to find my item. Okay, the agenda item. Public hearing to consent and make recommendation to the village council regarding ordinance number 977, amending chapter 22, subdivision of land, to amend definitions, update the application, and approve procedures for preliminary and final plat, and update the development design standards for subdivisions in accordance with current standards and practices, and further to amend the recreations required for residential development, the subdivision variance process, and enforce remedies and penalties for violations in order to provide consistency with Chapter 26 zoning by village engineer Chris Marsh.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Got a
Chris.
packed house tonight. What I'll do is I'll generally go over the changes that we did. Primarily, the changes that were made were administrative changes to the front section of that. There were some definitions added, in particular the Tier 1 and Tier 2 improvements to help the applicants through the subdivision process. There was confusion on what they needed to get done prior to allowing residents to occupy that subdivision, or our business members to occupy that subdivision. So we wanted to make it a little more clear on what those requirements are going to would be prior to them occupying that site. So that was updated. And then there was a whole bunch of housekeeping in the Article 3 section, and those updates were to walkways to better align with our comprehensive bicycle plan, and then general updates for utility updates, changes from FDOT, South Florida Water Management District, FEMA, CRS, and then some technical updates to that. And that would be the gist of it. So if there were any specific questions that you wanted to discuss, I'd be more than happy to field those.
Thank you very much, Chris. Any comments from the public? No comments from the public, so then I'll move on to the commissioners. Commissioner Ross, any comments?
Yeah, I sent some questions to Kevin. I'm not sure if you got them regarding.
I got them late today. I guess the big one that you had was the changing the 4-foot sidewalk to 5-foot sidewalk. Me and the manager actually did have a discussion concerning that, and obviously the trend is to go with these 5-foot sidewalks. The problem is the village is largely built out. We only have a couple subdivisions left. And if we were going to go back, for instance, if we had a resurfacing project or Public Works had a project, we'd be faced with the difficult decision of taking out a 4-foot walkway and then taking away from people's parking, because then you would be essentially the majority of our roads and the local roadways that we're talking about. And let me clarify, I'm not sure everybody's understanding what the new code is essentially what we've done is we said, you have your local roads, which are kind of your cul-de-sac roads, very low traffic scenarios. Those are going to be 4-foot walkways in front of the houses. And then after you get on to that Ponce de Leon type street, La Mancha Avenue type street, then you would be increasing to a 5-foot walkway. And then once you made it onto Royal Palm Beach Boulevard, then you'd be increasing to an 8-foot walkway. And then if you got onto State Road 80, that would be a 10-foot walkway. So that's kind of the gist of what we've done. And we've spent a tremendous amount of money, and we've received a lot of grants creating that system throughout the village. And that is the model that's out there. So the idea was to update the code to be consistent with that model. The problem with, and 5 foot is a great width because you could use that as a off-street bike lane. The problem that we had on making it on every single roadway is one, what do we do with the existing subdivisions? And we've in my tenure here, we've had battles just trying to get walkways in subdivisions that have no sidewalks. If we mention the idea of bringing sidewalks into Willows, for instance, people lose parking. So, and that's exactly what happened in La Mancha, where you have 60-foot right-of-ways, you take a foot on each side, and then suddenly people can no longer park 4 vehicles in their driveways, and it would be a very uphill battle to enforce that and implement that change.
In terms of, isn't this really for new developments going forward? It would not affect existing sidewalks, wouldn't it be better to have that?
This is a minimum design standard, so obviously new developments certainly are going to have to follow this design standard or get a variance to it. And that's a fair question. Let me go, because the trend has been with new development is to have private roadways and not have 60-foot right-of-ways, to in fact have 50-foot right-of-ways, and in some cases even smaller than that. So these corridors are constrained. People are trying to get more units within those developments, and that's the product that's being sold out there. But the reality is we're only talking about short segments that the people would be on these 4-foot walkways, and then they're going to be going on to expanding systems as they get into situations where there's higher volumes of traffic on those roadways and more congestion. So that was the model that we came up with.
It seems like in a hardship situation that we often do variances, and that would be in those situations, but as a kind of a minimum that we should be setting a higher standard. But anyway, it's just a comment, so that was one.
Understood.
The other question was just would it be what's the venue or the document? It seemed like that document should address bike lanes, and it didn't address bike lane widths. So that's something that would be good to address, I think, at some point, if not as part of this change.
Well, basically what the standard says, it's going to be in accordance with Florida Department of Transportation standards, so it does address bike lane widths. Is that they would need to be consistent with that. No, the whole standard basically says it's going to be in accordance with FDOT unless we say otherwise. So we've generally adopted FDOT standards, and then we've come in and we've tweaked certain standards or I guess put an exclamation point on some of those standards. So no, the idea would be that whatever the standard moving forward is for these bike paths, we certainly would want to conform with them. I mean, clearly FDOT is the leader in this realm. They're the ones that get sued more than anybody else, so and they are creating these all over the state, and so that they are the organization that we have chosen to follow.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It didn't seem particularly clear that was the intent of the language. So I think there might be perhaps that language could be looked at. It wasn't very clear to me that the department DOT standards were the criteria that would be followed for bike lanes. So that's just a suggestion that to clarify that.
In general for roadway design and that is the intent, that we're going to be following DOT standards. That's what I review for. And once again, these are minimum standards. So staff, we fight hard to get to have the applicants exceed these standards when it makes sense. And also understand that there are going to be different situations that are going to warrant different things based on the volume of traffic on those roadways and what the uses are surrounding that. So.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Commissioner Charles, any questions or comments?
No, none at all.
I think Commissioner Ross covered a lot of stuff there. Any comments from Commissioner Phil?
Nothing from me.
Comments from Commissioner Ray?
Yes, I have a comment. Chris, so basically we're looking at FDOT, right? The Florida statutes and basically complying with the Florida
Well, it's
regulations.
the Florida Department of Transportation.
Exactly.
And they spend a lot of money in research. They build a lot of facilities. They hear from a lot of the public, so they get to vet things. Right. And they're constantly updating their standards, so we're trying to be consistent with those standards.
And I get the message. That's all I have as a comment, that so long as we comply with the Florida statutes and the FDOT. Okay, we're good.
Continued good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just for the record, Madam Chair, I did talk to Commissioner Shillingford before the meeting. He did provide some comments to Kevin, Chris, and I. Some of them were clerical cleanups, like some design standard names had changed recently. So for those, we felt those were clerical in nature. We'll go ahead and update those so when it goes to council next week, it will have the correct standards. I just wanted to make that clear for the record since I did talk to you about it. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ross.
Yeah, thank you for the input, by the way.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. So any comments from the public? Seeing no comments from the public, can I have a motion to pass this, please?
Motion to approve ordinance number 977.
Can I have a second on that, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Phil. All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Aye. All those opposed to the motion? Motion passed 5-0. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thanks. Okay, now we will move to item number 1, public hearing to consent and make recommendations to the Village Council regarding ordinance number 976, amending Chapter 26 zoning of the Village's Code of Ordinance in order to amend the definition of bar and/or cocktail lounge and restaurant, to provide additional clarity and distinction between the two uses, to create new definition for nightclub and live entertainment, to provide specific procedures for modifying or revoking previous approved special exception uses under certain circumstances, and to delete restaurant with live entertainment from the list of special exception uses in the CN Neighborhood Commercial District by Community Development Director Rob Hill.
All right, I am not Rob Hill, but I will, I will handle this for him tonight.
Could you tell us who you are, please?
I am
Yeah,
Jennifer Ashton, for the record, village attorney.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have had a situation in the village probably over the last year, and this has been a code enforcement issue, where we have had certain bars and restaurants acting as nightclubs. And you may have seen a story in the Palm Beach Post recently. A similar issue has been going on in Wellington. We're kind of ahead of the ball. We're trying to address this as quickly as we can. Nightclubs under the Village Code of Ordinances are prohibited. They are not listed anywhere in the zoning code. You will not see that use listed. And under our zoning code, if it's not listed, it is prohibited. So we take this very seriously when we find out a restaurant or a bar is actually acting against what our code requires. When we were bringing some of these restaurants to the code enforcement magistrate, we realized that our code in certain areas could be a little more clear, not only for the code enforcement officers to be able to easily enforce it, but also for the the special magistrate when he hears these cases. So that's pretty much what this ordinance is designed to do tonight. It does revise the definition of bars and lounges to give a little more distinction between the two uses. They are separate uses under the zoning code. A restaurant is primarily for the providing of food to people. Alcohol is a secondary use, while a bar, the service of alcohol should be the primary use. So again, we tried to provide a little more clarification between those two uses in the code, just for business owners out there that maybe don't understand that. We also provided a definition for nightclub because, like I said before, it is prohibited, but maybe some people don't understand exactly what a nightclub is supposed to be. So we did provide a very clear definition in the code, and there are a set number of criteria that a business could fall under to qualify as a nightclub. One of them is if you charge a cover or a door charge, and you don't have a special exception, or I'm sorry, a special event permit with the village, that could qualify you as a nightclub. Also, if taking aside the cover charge or door charge, if you meet 4 of the 6 criteria listed in the code, like you have a dance floor, you operate between the hours of midnight and 7 a.m., you play loud music or live music, I'm sorry. If you meet 4 of those 6 criteria in there, you could be designated as a nightclub. Again, this is to set it up so businesses know fully well what is expected of them and what we do not allow in the village. It does remove also live entertainment from the CN zoning district. Staff had a lot of debate on this. We felt, given some development applications that we've received recently, we felt it was not appropriate to continue allowing live entertainment in the commercial neighborhood zoning district that is very close to residential units within the village, and we felt like the noise impacts from live entertainment could pose a real problem. Commissioner Shillingford had asked me earlier today in an email, what happens to those businesses that maybe currently have a special exception approval to have live entertainment in the CN district? Are we affecting them? And the answer is no. If they have a legally approved special exception use with the village already for live entertainment, this ordinance does not prevent them from continuing to have that live entertainment. If they're doing live entertainment and they don't have a special exception use with the village, well, they're not currently in compliance with our code anyway, because we do require special exception use approval for live entertainment. But we're asking that be removed from the CN district, just given how close it is to residences. And then finally, we had a situation a while ago, and we were trying to figure out how to deal with it. What happens if someone comes in and gets a special exception use approval from the village, and maybe they lie on their application and say their business is one thing, and then you find out it's another? A good example of that could be a massage therapist. They say we're going to do this, but then you find out they're not. What are our remedies as a village? Can we revoke that special exception use approval? And at the end of the day, we probably could, but it could be messy. We thought it would be better to have a very clear set out process in the code for what would happen in those kind of situations. So you'll see in this ordinance as well, we've established a process where we can revoke a special exception use approval, and that will go to the village council, and they will be the ones that will have to revoke it. But there is a process in this ordinance for doing that. One other thing to note, at the council meeting on first reading last week, Councilman Valentis, he requested that some additional language be added into the appeals section. Unfortunately, your agenda packet was already out the door before we had that information. So just know that some additional language for clarification purposes was added to the appeals section. But I'll be happy to answer any questions you have on this ordinance.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll move on.
Kevin, got anything? Okay.
Thank you very much, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Marcus?
Do we have any entertainment like that in the village now?
They're not operating in accordance with our rules.
All right.
Yes. We've had some police activity at some of those places. The one in particular that kind of generated this ordinance, they left the space they were in. So we're trying to keep on top of it.
Good,
We
thank
thought this ordinance would be preventative.
you. Commissioner White?
Yes, I do. By the way, I enjoyed the council meeting last week, and you were very clear in explaining exactly what you just did to us. And the clarity is for the code enforcement, like when they basically the issue was that you could run a restaurant by day and then switch the flag at night. And that to me is fraud and misrepresentation, because you can't be two things. You have to be one thing, like you said, you have to be the nightclub or the live entertainment and really meet the criterion, right? You said 4 out of 6 requirements is a bottom line?
Correct. Right.
Okay, so I applaud the decision basically because it in the future it clears all the misunderstandings and the potential actions that are taken in the future against our village. So I'm definitely for it.
Great. And what he's referencing at the council meeting, Rob Hill did explain what we have seen is during the daytime hours, they will be operating as a restaurant.
Exactly.
Come 8 o'clock at night, all of the tables get pushed against the wall, and all of a sudden there's a big area for a dance hall, and it becomes a nightclub.
Yes. Commissioner Charles?
No question.
Commissioner Ross?
Is the nightclub so bad? A little dancing after hours.
We don't have entertainment districts like West Palm, so, and we don't have the police resources like West Palm, so, yes, they're bad.
No comments or questions.
Good. Glad that you did some housekeeping to keep us straight in on the narrow path in the future and the present. Thank you. Since any additional comments, can I have a motion on this, please?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion on this one. Ordinance number 976, proposing to amend Chapter 26
Thank you.
as read.
I'll second it.
Thank you. I have, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any of those opposed to the motion? Okay, motion passed 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Next item.
moving right along.
Item number 3.
Okay.
Public hearing to consider and make recommendation to the village council regarding ordinance number 978, amending chapter 26 zoning of the village's code of ordinance by adding an entirely new section 26-75.5, art in public places, in order to impose a new public art requirement on large-scale commercial industrial developments in the village and on village capital projects by Planning and Zoning Commissioner Director Brad O'Brien.
And I am not him either.
Bradford, right. He doesn't like to be called Brad.
Okay, Bradford, yes, sorry about that.
I'm glad you mentioned.
I'm neither one of those, Brad or Bradford.
Bradford,
So-
right.
Can the record reflect that?
Thank you.
Okay, this was another Village Council strategic plan item for this
Saw
year.
that, yeah.
This is something we've been working toward for a while. You may have heard if you watched the council meeting, we all kind of have an internal joke that the rule in this ordinance is about half a page, but then there's 15 or 16 pages of how we administer that
Exactly.
half-page rule. So what the rule is, this new public arts requirement is going to apply to large-scale commercial and industrial projects. Those are the ones in the village that are over 20,000 square feet. It's also going to apply to village capital projects. Now, Commissioner Schillingford had emailed me earlier today and asked, well, why are we limiting it to commercial industrial and just village capital projects? Why not like a residential PUD? We did talk a lot about that at the staff process. You know, do we want to expand this into other areas? The issue right now is this is kind of we're our first dipping our toe in the water, so to speak, with this. And so we're gonna start with the commercial and industrial areas and the capital projects. Could it evolve into something else later? Absolutely. But another issue we have with requiring it in the residential areas, this is supposed to be an art in public places ordinance. And the trend in the village has been recently for the residential areas to be more of a gated community type feel. So if we have a gated community, how public is that art really going to be? How many people are actually going to be able to experience it? So we did we talk about it at length, but that's kind of the thought process with why we're just focusing on the commercial, industrial, and the village capital projects right now. So the requirement is going to be any vertical construction that goes on in these projects. We're going to require that 1% of the vertical construction costs be dedicated to a public art project. We give the developer or village staff great leeway in deciding, what kind of art is this going to be? Is it going to be a sculpture? Is it going to be a mural? Is it going to be some architectural component that's integrated into a building? We're not going to tell them right off the bat, you can't do this or you can't do this. Art obviously is subjective a little bit. So we want people to have some flexibility in what they want to propose, but it is going to be 1% of the vertical construction costs. The question has come up, well, how do you verify 1%? They could just make up numbers. They're going to actually have to be providing us with certified engineer cost estimates. They can estimate how much a building is going to cost. And then our building official, he has, under the Florida Building Code, verification tables that he can go and they'll get pretty close to the number that it's supposed to be. If you're doing a renovation, it's still 1% of the renovation vertical construction cost, minus out the existing building. We don't want to charge people twice for the same structure, but the percentage is the same. It's going to be the 1% for any renovation project as well. The location of the artwork, where are these things supposed to go? Well, as I said before, this is an art in public places ordinance, so we are requiring that the artwork be located in a place where many, many people can experience it and enjoy it. What the developer is going to be required to do, or village staff is going to be required to do, is tell you, as the Planning and Zoning Commission, where that art's going to be located, either on the site plan or master plan, whichever one is going to come to you first. You're going to be able to make recommendations to the council about the location. So you guys are always going to see the location. Right. And then that recommendation will go to council. They obviously can come in and change the location later, but they're going to have to go back through the approval process with you and with the village council through a site plan modification. Who approves the aesthetic design? That was a big question. Are we supposed, who's looking at this art? Who determines if the art's okay? For the private developments, you all will be looking at it first, and you'll have a recommendation to the village council, and they'll make the final decision on whether or not the art's approved or not. We have put in quite a few standards in this ordinance to guide you, and I'll talk about some of those in just a minute. For the village capital projects, you will not be looking at the design of that. The council will be doing that, and council will have final say. And the reason for that is council is probably going to be the ones buying the art, so they're probably going to have the first look at it just the way that the art's going to be coming into the village. So another question is, when must the art be installed? We've put a requirement in the code that the art has to be installed before CO, so certificate of occupancy for the project. There are many, many pages about when CO is determined, depending on the type of the project. I'm not going to get into all that. Again, very complicated, but just know it's certificate of occupancy for the project. That's when the art's going to have to be installed. We have quite a few selection criteria in the code now about how artists are going to be selected, either by the private developer or by the village. We want artists that are actually able to complete a public art installation. These are not your run-of-the-mill, I'm going to do a small painting and hang it on the wall. These are normally large-scale installations. You have to have an artist that is capable of doing the job. So there are some criteria in there about what we're looking for to make sure that we don't have a half-finished sculpture or a half-finished, architectural element. And then finally, we have added in quite a lot of criteria about how you should evaluate the art that does come in front of you. The problem with art is art is in the eye of the beholder. It's very subjective, but we did try to put in here some objective criteria for you and for council to be able to use in determining whether or not that art is appropriate. I'm just going to go through a few with you here. One example is the art has to be integrated and harmonious with the overall project. So you don't want something that just is, garish and sticking out and not, it just is kind of jarring to the eye. It doesn't fit within the overall development. Another one is we want it to be durable. We've defined that to mean it needs to last more than 25 years. We don't want something that's temporary in nature and could disintegrate overnight. And it needs to be safe, obviously. We're putting these in public spaces. We don't want structures falling on people, being sharp, potentially cut someone. Another criteria is it cannot be commercial in nature. We do not want these art elements to turn into advertising for building owners or tenants. I just, in my mind, I always imagine Target all of a sudden will install some massive bullseye and they'll say that's the public art. So that's not what we want this to be. And then one of the last criteria I'm going to go over is it shouldn't be obscene or indecent. Again, this is in a public space where families are going to go. We don't want anything depicting drug use, violence, weapons, nudity, those types of things. So again, trying to not limit creativity, but hone in on what we expect in order to get credit for the public art requirement. I think I had a few other questions from you, Commissioner Schillingford. Let me make sure I've covered all of them. Commissioner Schillingford had asked why we do not allow for donated artwork. So the way that the ordinance is set up, if a private developer comes in, the developer has to purchase the artwork in order to get credit. The question was, well, why not donated? We did talk about this a lot. One of the issues with donated artwork, to find out a value for it, you could have numerous appraisals, and each appraiser is going to value it differently. So which appraisal do you accept? If you make the developer purchase the art, the value is the contract price. Right, yeah. And it's easy from an administrative perspective in trying to figure out value. So that's why we went with they need to purchase the artwork. Let's see. And I think I got all of your questions, but I'll be happy to answer anything else anyone has. Thank you.
Will you be providing art training for us on what is art and what is not art?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the first time when you started talking about what you can and cannot put out there, I just had a flashback in my mind of one of those Greek statues kind of like just making their way out in one of those places. Or you get a guy who's a French developer and he looks and says, that is art. Although the guy is half naked and, so I just, that's the image that just,
I guess we'll cross that bridge.
Well, no, we don't have to cross that bridge.
And if you Google public art projects, you will find that very thing. So that's why we have tried to learn from other cities' mistakes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
No, that just, when she started talking about art, what is art right there?
Okay, yes, it's the eye of the beholder. Remember that.
Okay.
Luckily, we have a little mini informal art society here in the village.
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of women are involved in that and some men too. And I know they're very interested in this ordinance and how this is going to develop. So I'm almost positive when we get our first project in, they're probably going to be here and can offer you some insight into art design. Way more than I could ever.
Couldn't you kind of give them some guidance as to maybe I don't know, if the art is going to be, maybe it has to be reflective of Royal Palm instead, here's some history of Royal Palm.
We actually have that as a criteria. Thank you for bringing that up. I didn't cover that, but one of the criteria that you're going to look for is we want something that respects and reflects the cultural traditions of the village.
Of the village, sure.
Yes. Yeah. So if they're able to incorporate that kind of a thing, that would be more points in their favor.
Sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Jennifer, go ahead. I finished with you.
Commissioner Ross, anything
No
else you have
comments
to
or
add?
questions.
Commissioner Jones, you finished?
No, I'm done now.
Okay.
Commissioner Nikki guy's not here. We're good.
Phil?
Commissioner Phil?
I have nothing.
You good? Commissioner Ray?
Now, Jennifer, I saw the council meeting and I saw you speak and you went in detail, but what I didn't get from you tonight was something about 2 million plus. You were making a distinction between the size, and somehow that stuck in my mind. Can you expand on that?
Of course. So this is for the private developments.
Right.
they have to have a minimum of $2.5 million in vertical construction before this art requirement's triggered. So 1% of 2.5 million is 25,000. We thought anything less than that, we're starting to get very small scale and we're not really getting a public art project. It's becoming more of a private art project. So we did put a minimum requirement on there to make sure that, you know, we're meeting the intent of the ordinance.
Okay, good, thank you very much.
That's all I have. That's the question.
Thank you very much. Since there are no further questions or comments, can I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to the motion say nay. The motion passed 5-0. Thank you very much. I'm gonna take home my art and read it.
Next.
Page for page, inch by inch. Because I know they will show up when we have to do that art stuff. Yeah. Okay, item number 4, public hearing to consider and make recommendation to the village council regarding ordinance number 979, amending chapter 2, administration of the village code of ordinance at section 2-75.24, in order to designate the Village Planning and Zoning Commission as the Public's Art Advisory Board, and to assign the Planning and Zoning Commissioner such duties of that board as prescribed in section 26-75.5 of the Village Code by Development Review Coordinator Kevin Ewing.
Did you know you're doing this one? No.
And you are?
You summarized it. It's just to designate you as the public art board.
Okay.
Okay.
So we can say P&Z Local Art Board,
Yes, we call it was the PAB, the Public Art Advisory Board.
Public Art Advisory Board,
Yes.
okay.
Something else you can add to your resume.
Any other questions or comments or anything else? That's it for tonight. I'd like to close this section of the local planning.
No, we
We do need a
to-
motion.
Yeah.
We have to, oh, sorry.
Motion
Can
to
I get
approve.
Can I have a motion to approve, please?
I did. Motion to approve.
Yeah.
Second, please?
I'll second.
Second.
I have a second with Philip.
Philip, yes. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to the motion, say nay. Motion passed 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys, and that's Charles, that was Charles, yes, and Phil, yeah.
Great.
And when will our next, okay, good, that's it.
All right, I have a few items to discuss with
Uh-oh.
You're retiring?
What do you, uh-oh. First, if you would be so kind to speak more into the microphone, because as of October, when you're making a motion, kind of like look over here, kind of, you know, it's really hard to hear.
You're talking to
Because,
me, right?
Yes.
well, actually, all of you talk, except for Ray, he's the only one, and June, because obviously she has the female voice, but the rest of you are sometimes quite quiet. I currently work in planning and zoning and engineering, and now they have switched it up to where this position is now divided into 2. So planning and zoning will be done by Lauren McPherson. So she will be your new administrative assistant, and she will be handling the meetings for you and getting you all the documents. Her phone number will stay the same. I will send out an email to give you all her contact information as far as her email address as well. And I will be just doing engineering.
Oh, okay.
So it has been my pleasure
Oh, wow.
for all the new ones, and those
All
have
the
been
old
here for a
ones.
number of years. I've
Don't say
enjoyed working with all of you. I'm sure I'll see you around, and I might even be here next month to just help and make sure she's okay and comfortable.
And your first name again?
Lauren.
Lauren, okay,
Lauren.
very good. Yes, at least now, Vicki, you don't have to bring those big boxes. She used
I
to
know, I know.
away with the big boxes of paperwork.
No, not yet.
I'm
Not
in
yet.
the building right now, I'm moving up to P&Z.
Right, that's right. She is in building, so she's currently
Good.
an employee now and moving up and got promoted over
Oh,
to
congratulations.
P&Z.
Thank you very much. Are you really getting up there, you know?
We also have a new, yeah, right? We'll be good. We have a new alternate for the board, also in case you all weren't aware, Alan Miller. He'll be starting in
Next meeting,
October. He'll be in the audience, and as it works, just so you know, Philip, we'll be alternating between yourself and Mr. Miller to preside on the board. And thank you at the last minute to take the seat. And the next meeting's going to be October 25th? 23rd, thank you.
23rd.
We're gonna miss you, Vicky.
Yes.
Thanks, I'll miss you all
That's an
too.
honor.
Maybe I'll see you at Home Depot or Lowe's.
Definitely.
I've seen Charles there.
It's my store.
Also, Vicky, I have a question.
Sure.
Are we supposed to get some kind of a manual? I've been waiting for months.
It was emailed.
Oh, it was emailed? Okay.
Yes. And just so you know, yes, everything, I think all of you know this, but we have decided to go, strictly everything is digital now, electronic. Okay? There will be no hard copies given out anymore. Saves on trees, paper, with the technology we have, it's so much easier. And I think June's the only one that remembers. We used to have, literally, I would carry boxes of plans to
And
people's
charts.
houses, to y'all's
Yeah.
houses. And then we kind of changed it up, remember that? And then we kind of changed it up where some people would come in and get it, but no more
Yeah.
of that.
And
Literally,
you'd sit here and open your charts and go, let me
yes,
see, on what
yes.
page are we going through?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
That was always fun driving around. I learned where everyone lived, too.
And yeah, that's true. And what is good is the fact that with the Planning and Zoning Board, we have a very good staff that really reviews everything, fine tunes it. They've got the ones with the degrees and the knowledge, so they know everything. And by the time they come down to us, we know that it's gone through their whole process. So-
Right, right.
And that's very good too, you know, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Avoids us from having to reiterate and go over things. But anyhow, I see everybody's ready to go home.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
And all the best to you, Vicki. I'm sure we'll
Thank
be seeing
you.
She's not going far. She's still gonna be with